Hello and welcome to the next in the series of the AI and Democracy webinars hosted by the UK Democracy Network and ANTIPARTY. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. As you know, we cannot ignore the proliferation of AI technology in our everyday lives, and as long as we continue to live in a so-called democracy, how can AI enhance our engagement in society, keep the government in check, and improve the function of democratic processes? Or will AI be used to impersonate identities, spread misinformation, and take over roles previously requiring human judgment? Now is the time to decide. So just to let you know a bit about the co-host, the UK Democracy Network works to strengthen the relationships and connections between organisations, projects and individuals working to build a healthier democracy in the UK. The network is open to all those working in and around issues of democracy, power and voice, providing you with the resources, information and collaboration opportunities to take your work to the next level. And there's the link for the democracy check-in in the chat. And ANTIPARTY is a pro-democracy movement born from the Partygate scandal, looking to transcend the two-party system by applying collective intelligence for systems change. We look to empower individuals to collectively contribute towards positive change and restore hope by reimagining a system that works for us, not those in power. Through a combination of art and creativity, experience and expertise, we seek to inspire new solutions to old problems. And I'll share a link to the ANTIPARTY website in the chat in due course too, if you want to follow up there. But without further ado, I know there's a lot to get through today. I'd like to welcome Lucas of deliberAIde. Welcome, Lucas, and thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Bella. Great to be here. Hey, everyone. How's everyone doing? I'll just get started by sharing my slides with all of you. And I hope to get the right ones. Right, so today I'm here with you, the AI and Democracy webinars. But two weekends ago, in fact, I was sitting in a huge conference room in Berlin because I had the privilege of getting to observe the first ever citizen assembly by the German parliament. On that weekend, the randomly selected assembly members from all over Germany, from very diverse backgrounds, they gathered for the second time in person. And their goal of the weekend was to prioritize the previously collected measures and proposals for their continued deliberations on healthier, sustainable nutrition. And I was sitting there, the room was virtually buzzing from the energy of democracy in action, a microcosmos of our society coming together to deliberate on that very important issue. The day started on the Sunday morning with participants pairing up for reflective dialogue. They were asked to share with each other personal life experiences linked to topics and measures that have been discussed so far. And after two rounds, some of the participants got to share in plenary some insights from their conversations. And one of the stories stuck with me. A man recounted how his childhood was marked by scarcity and hunger because his family would run out of money halfway through the month. And because of that, he told he was extremely shocked by the participants' visit the day before to a food bank in Berlin, where they learned about the tons and tons of food that is not being donated and therefore wasted every single day. He thereby highlighted the profound societal dissonance and ended up making a plea for taking up the topic of regulated food waste again that had been disregarded by the assembly in previous sessions. I was personally deeply moved by this story and his very personal plea, and I sure wasn't the only one. When the time came to determine the prioritization of the topics at the end of the day, this citizen's narrative of need against the backdrop of tons of food waste every day seemed to have shifted perspectives across the assembly. In the concluding vote, in fact, the issue of food waste ended up being prioritized as one of the highest among a total of 15 proposed measures to continue deliberating on. Now, observing this, I was thinking to myself, I was seeing the power of deliberative democracy at work. Personal stories sparking understanding and transforming collective decision-making. It was a subtle but very powerful testament of how democratic participation, especially through deliberative democracy in the form of citizen assemblies, can yield deep empathy and mutual understanding, and of the powerful capacity for change that comes with that. And to multiply that powerful capacity for change, that is exactly our mission at deliberAIde. We want to use AI, we want to leverage the power of AI to enhance this capacity of change of democratic participation. And in today's presentation, I would like to explain to you how exactly we're doing that, how exactly we're working toward this mission. And to do so, we're going to start by little explainer of where the idea came from in the first place, and where it has led us over the past few months, where we're currently at the pre-incubation stage. Then secondly, I'm going to talk about what is actually the problem when it comes to trying to adopt AI in democratic participation and the solution that we have designed. And then thirdly, I'm going to give 3 very concrete examples of how solutions for adopting AI in democratic participation processes could look like. But before we dive in, who am I? Well, my name is Lukas. I'm a political economist by training, currently based in Berlin, 28 years old. But when I was 16, so 12 years ago, I had the privilege to live abroad in another country for the first time. I went on exchange in Mexico, and that experience pulled me out of my European bubble of comfort and privilege that I grew up in. And it opened my eyes to the stark reality of injustice throughout the world. So I became determined to fight for greater equity, and I haven't stopped since then. Since then, the world's inequities have only deepened. Also, ecological breakdown has become more imminent. And lately, we have also seen the return of imperial warfare. So multiple crises, which is why my conviction for systemic change is stronger than ever. And for several years now, I've been working on participation and deliberative democracy because I believe that is a very powerful potential lever for enabling that systemic change. And through engaging in that field, I know and I have shared its challenges of limited budgets or sometimes no budgets, of inclusivity, of trying to scale the number of participants while maintaining the quality of deliberations. And so my journey has been one of continuous exploration, from alternative understandings of poverty, from my bachelor's, to alternative economic paradigms, to hands-on organizing and innovating participatory processes, training in data science and machine learning, and in the emerging field of AI operations lately. And so now with deliberAIde, I'm set to continue this journey, and I'm being joined by 5 amazing co-founders. And on this journey to leverage generative AI to shape the future of democratic participation, to empower every voice. So where did this idea come from? It literally started on the 27th of March, 4 a.m. was a Sunday to Monday morning. And I woke up and I couldn't sleep anymore because I had this idea. Seems like my brain was very impressed by the powers of ChatGPT that had been released only a couple months earlier, and I've been using it intensively. And my brain somehow connected that to my other passion, democratic participation. And so I started chatting with ChatGPT, and that's how it started. Here you can see it on the screen. Can you help me think about an idea? And so I didn't stop chatting for 7 hours. I'm not making this up. And at the end of the 7 hours, I had a name for that idea. I had lots of encouragement from ChatGPT. Now I know that ChatGPT in a way is programmed to do that. And I had a 20-step plan to start implementing that idea. And so I got to work, and I was soon joined by other people. In fact, Sammy, who gave a talk, the last talk, I believe, at this webinar series, he was the first person to join the team. I did a 2.5 months boot camp in data science and machine learning because I figured, if I want to leverage AI for democratic participation, I should know a thing or two about how AI works and what it actually is and how to use it. And at the end of that boot camp, we actually, as a final project, together with some team members, we developed a first prototype of an AI tool that takes a discussion transcript and then, with the help of a large language model, summarizes the topics of the discussions, viewpoints of different participants, and also all the arguments that participants have shared in support of their viewpoints. And then it turns it into nice visual mind maps, which you can see here on the picture. A couple of weeks later, we had then developed a second prototype. Now we were also able to actually record a discussion and transcribe it in real time, and then immediately send that transcript to a large language model who would do the same, summarize the discussion and visualize it. And we had also added some more interactivity to the visualization. But then we realized, okay, well, this is only one possible application of generative AI. And it would be a bit presumptuous to assume that we know exactly what kind of function and use case actors in the field of democratic participation want the most, so that we could start developing it. Because the field of democratic participation is vast and very diverse, and very many different formats, from citizen assemblies to online engagement platforms to town halls, you name them. So we took a step back and we said, we need to do some research first. So we started interviewing practitioners and experts in the field of democratic participation. We mapped and analyzed participation processes and workflows, focusing a lot on citizen assembly. So from before citizen assembly to after, what are actually the jobs and tasks that organizers have to do, and where's the potential for enhancing these processes and innovating them with the help of generative AI. Then at the end of September, we got accepted into the Oxford University Innovation pre-incubation program, and have since gotten a lot of support from Oxford University Innovation in revising our strategy from more of a business model perspective, again, analyzing the actual problems of what's called customers in a business context. And all of that together helped us arrive at what we believe is the actual problem. You already know, probably if you're engaged in the field of democratic participation, more and more people around the world believe that we should give more power to ordinary people. And as a result, there has been a rise in democratic participation, especially in deliberative formats like citizen assemblies over the past few years. But here's the problem. In order to make those formats, make democratic participation rise even more, become even more mainstream, there are some challenges. Budgets for implementing them still tend to be relatively low. And democratic participation in comparison to that are relatively expensive. It is not easy to make these processes, even a citizen assembly, inclusive for everyone so that everyone can equally participate. It's even more challenging to scale the number of people that can participate in these processes while retaining what's so special about deliberation, which is this process of intense dialogue, informed dialogue, and mutual exchange, mutually understanding each other, in an ideal case, reaching consensus. And the outcomes, they oftentimes also still tend to be more of a list of recommendations, and then perhaps you add some description of how the process went to it. But there's more hidden in these processes, more insights that you could potentially get out of them. So the outcomes are not as relevant and as impactful as they could be. This is how participation still looks like a lot of times nowadays. Facilitators oftentimes still work with physical whiteboards, with physical sticky notes. Everything is very manual and analog know sometimes they're also already using digital whiteboards, but that's more of an exception in my experience. But this is how citizen participation could look like in the future. If we use AI to enhance how these processes work and to innovate, we could make citizen participation more inclusive, make it more cost-effective, thereby making it more scalable and accessible to a larger number of people, and ultimately more impactful when it comes to taking good decisions for the public good. But before we continue, let's take a moment to clarify, to make sure that everyone is on the same page when we talk about AI. So when I say AI, I talk about generative AI. So artificial intelligence, as you know, is not new. It's been around for decades. Machine learning, giving rules to machines to follow, is also not new. Deep learning, imitating the brain, the human brain, and using that to teach a machine to make predictions or run simulations, also not new. But what's new is the general accessibility of these generative AI tools like ChatGPT, like DALL-E for image generation, like Whisper for transforming speech to transcripts, and so on and so forth. And what's special is that with a lot of money and a lot of data, sometimes trillions of data points, these generative AI tools, they've been pre-trained, which turns them into very good generalists and very powerful reasoning machines. And the second new thing is that because of this pre-training, you now no longer need to collect huge amounts of data to specialize these tools on new tasks or domain-specific tasks, but you can actually work with instructions, or what's also called prompting. And that makes these tools very powerful for democratic participation. For example, here on the left, you could use generative AI tools for fact-checking in the process. You could use it, like we've done in our first two prototypes, for summarizing and visualizing discussions and documenting them. Or you could even use them to aggregate inputs from wider public and link those inputs to a centralized participation format, like a citizen assembly, enabling larger scale participation. So now you may ask yourself, okay, but why not just use ChatGPT if it's cheap, or if it's free and you have a Plus account, cheaply available to everyone? Well, the problem is ChatGPT is made for chat, as the name already says. And in addition to that, there are data privacy concerns, which becomes very problematic in the very sensitive context of democratic participation. It's not reliable. Oftentimes it makes up things, hallucinates, and it's difficult to verify the sources of the information that it puts out. Oftentimes the length of the inputs that you can input is also very limited. That has become better over the past few weeks, but still, you cannot upload transcripts from hundreds or thousands of discussions at the same time. And there's also still a quite steep learning curve for making sure that you design instructions, the prompts, that you engineer the prompts in a way that is specific and clear enough to actually get the models or get ChatGPT to do what you want it to do. In a nutshell, or in short, the AI systems behind different kinds of purposes tend to be quite complex, and they need to be tailored to the specific purpose. Here you can just see an example. I'm not going to go into detail of a chatbot like ChatGPT that has the ability to actually retrieve relevant information from a private knowledge base. And you can see here how complex it is. There are databases, there is a user interface, and the large language model, of course, and the prompts that you need to put in, and then the interactions and in the right logic and in the right sequence. So that's where we come in. ChatGPT is not usable, but the technologies are powerful. So in order to make them usable in democratic participation, our mission is to build customized solutions that are tailored to different actors in democratic participation, be it organizers, be it commissioners, be it in politics, business, or civil society, wherever people want to include others in decision-making, we are there to develop custom AI solutions. And the benefit is that we tailor those solutions to your problems. We make sure that they're accessible through an interface that's user-friendly and doesn't require a huge learning curve. We make sure that it seamlessly integrates with your existing workflows. And throughout all of that, we ensure the highest standards of ethics and reliability. And with these custom solutions, we believe we can leverage the power of generative AI for citizen empowerment and make sure that ordinary people around the world get more of a say in important decisions. Now, to develop these custom solutions, we have designed an approach that starts with exploring mutual interests and working together with potential clients, like an organizer of a citizen assembly, for example. We then have a brief initial meeting with them to talk about mutual expectations. Maybe the clients already have some ideas of what they would like to do with generative AI. And we explain to them what we can do for them. Then we decide on a specific participation project where we would like to include generative AI. We then go on to analyze that participation process and make some proposals for potential AI solutions across different steps in the process. Once after another meeting with the client where we present to them which options that exist, and the client agrees that to implement some of the options, we get to work and we build those AI solutions. And thereby we adhere to data privacy standards. We make sure to mitigate AI bias. We make sure to promote accessibility. We bring up the accuracy of the results through evaluation frameworks and so on. So high standards of ethics and reliability. In order to do that, we have designed what we call AI operations for democratic participation. It is basically taking an emerging field called AI operations, but that's focused on business operations, and transfers that to the specific context of democratic participation. Now, what is that about? Well, it's about operationalizing generative AI to streamline, enhance, and innovate the processes of democratic engagement and participatory decision-making. And it entails two things. One, integrating AI into existing workflows, and secondly, also using the power of generative AI to enable new workflows and unlock new potential by doing things that weren't possible before because of constrained resources, for example. And we do that in a way that's adaptable to diverse formats of citizen participation, be it citizen assemblies, online engagement platforms, or completely different participatory formats. The benefits, well, the idea is to support and uplift all the human components of democratic processes. So we delegate the execution of routine tasks to AI where that's appropriate, always maintaining a human in the loop. And thereby we free up the space, cognitive space, time for facilitating these human connections and the dialogues and the processes of coming to mutual understanding. And all of that at the same time while enhancing productivity and effectiveness. Ultimately, this enhances the efficiency and efficacy of democratic participation, allowing for more meaningful deliberation and inclusive participation. How do we actually operationalize this approach, AI Ops for democratic participation? Well, we can resort to a toolbox that allows us to do that. And that toolbox consists of 3 stages of different levels of sophistication, costs, and complexity. Starting with the first stage, where we make use of existing AI tools. Think, for example, about digital whiteboard softwares Mural or Miro. They have released AI assistants to support collaboration on those platforms. So we could take such a tool. We could also take existing conversational AIs like ChatGPT, like Anthropic's Claude, like Google Bard. And what we provide is the prompt engineering. because that's an art form, that's a skill in itself, which some people in Silicon Valley pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros for in salaries. It's a skill to make sure that you give the instructions that are clear enough and structured in a way that the tools that you use actually give you the outputs that you desire. At the second stage, the possibilities become even wider, but also the complexity increases. There we talk about custom chatbots, and I know that some people here are working on that. We talk about using the new capabilities or the new functions of ChatGPT, like custom GPTs, where you can basically create your own tailored ChatGPT for a specific purpose without having to code and just use natural language to do that. Slightly more sophisticated version of that is to use OpenAI's developer platform to design custom assistants. And also very important, we can use automation tools like Zapier, Make, all no code, and we couple those with AI in order to automate some processes and streamline workflows and democratic participation. And at this third stage, and this is where it gets really interesting, we talk about custom co-pilots for democratic participation. We talk about chaining various AI tools together that interact with each other without requiring a human to interfere or like copy paste a prompt into various tools. We talk about enhancing the ability of these tools to provide accurate information by linking them to knowledge stores from which they can retrieve relevant context and information. We are at some point in the near future talking about AI agents. So you no longer need to instruct a generative AI to do a task for you, just give it a goal, and then you have a system of agents specialized on different tasks who communicate with each other and basically figure out for themselves how to achieve that goal. And we're very importantly, we're also talking about, and this is where we're getting more back into the conventional machine learning. We're talking about fine-tuning models to basically specialize them on tasks that are common in democratic participation, for example, aggregating results. Now, to make effective use of this toolbox and to practice AI ops for democratic participation, you need a quite particular set of expertise and skills. You need a deep understanding of the capabilities and limitations of different generative AI tools and models. You need to constantly stay up to date on the newest releases and the newest updates. You need to be able to recognize, and at the same time, you need to be able to recognize and seize the application opportunities in this particular context of democratic participation. So you need to be familiar with those processes as well. You need skills to design and implement these tailored AI systems. And very importantly, you also need expertise to manage and safeguard and continually enhance these systems as they're being deployed. And I'm very proud to say that we have built a team that is uniquely positioned to actually do all of these things, because we can count on participation, deliberative democracy expertise, combined with expertise on AI governance and ethics. Some of you have heard Sammy's talk, and if you don't, I recommend listening to it. We have people who are familiar with the strategies and intricacies of technology adoption and innovation. We have people who actually know how to build AI systems and operationalize them. And for the more coding heavy parts and the parts when it comes to making the generative AI tools accessible to everyone, we can also count on full stack software developer and a UX UI designer. And on top of all of that, we have over the past few months built up quite some experience and insights through our analyses, through developing that AIOps toolkit, through developing 2 prototypes. And we are strongly committed to 10 principles of ethics and public interest alignment. And we're in the process of not just staying committed to them, but actually writing those principles into our very company DNA by incorporating as a steward-owned company, so a company that owns itself, taking away completely the profit maximization and making sure that the mission always remains at the center of everything we do. Now to the part that's probably most interesting. I've talked in a very abstract way about our approaches, our toolboxes, but how does that actually look like in implementation? And I want to give you 3 concrete examples of how that could look like, one for each stage of the toolbox. So think about a citizen assembly context. One of the main jobs of organizers and facilitators throughout the whole assembly is to keep track and document participants' contributions. Oftentimes they use physical sticky notes for that, sometimes digital tools. I've thought that before. And one of the main jobs of a facilitator is to take the documented contributions from a discussion and then process those documentations to reuse in the next discussion session. For example, by categorizing all of the proposed policy solutions, or like on the weekend of the German Citizen Assembly that I talked about at the beginning, to prepare for a prioritization vote. Now, there's some issues with that. All the time that facilitators spend documenting, clustering, takes away focus and energy for preparing and facilitating the discussions themselves and making sure that everyone can equally participate and so on. Sometimes it can also be very costly money-wise, because sometimes in big processes you need to hire assistants just for documenting, and that can be in a ballpark of several 10,000s of euros for a big process. And what I also personally find a very concerning issue is that through this process of documenting and clustering, facilitators have very significant influence on the agenda of such a process. Their subjective perspective has very big impacts, whether they want to or not, and they are not really legitimated for that. So a solution, stage 1 solution, could look like the following. You take these contributions documented on a physical whiteboard. Facilitators take photos of all of the whiteboards. These photos are being uploaded to ChatGPT, for example, and that's where we come in. We provide a prompt library of tested and evaluated prompts to perform the tasks on these photos, starting with extracting all the contributions, ideas, positions, proposal, whatever you want to extract from the documented contributions. These are then sent back to the large language model. We then provide a second prompt to tell the large language model to take the outputs from the previous task and merge similar contributions. So look for repetitions, synthesize, and put all of that into a table format. And at the end, you just download a nice and neat table with all the documented contributions. That's one of the most low-key possible solutions for citizen assembly. Let's think about a somewhat more complex one. This is where AI and automation tools come into play. For example, for automated fact-checking. Throughout the discussion, small group discussion in a citizen assembly, facilitators or participants sometimes may not be entirely clear about or disagree on some facts, or they may miss some important factual information to continue having an informed discussion. In a larger assembly, it may be possible to resort to subject experts that can join the session and then can check the facts or provide additional clarifications. Sometimes participants even go on to do their own research in parallel to the session, like by using Google, Wikipedia, etc. There are some problems with it. Not all participation processes, especially the smaller ones, can have subject experts for every possible subject present on-demand fact-checking. You may even have to pay those subject experts. Then it's very hard to actually verify the kind of fact checks or the research outcomes from participants themselves. It oftentimes takes a long time for fact checkers to join a session or to do parallel research that very much interrupts the discussion flow. And in some cases, I've observed also the fact-checking process itself takes up very significant amounts of time, which is time that is not available for the actual discussion and dialogue. So our solution is the following. The discussion is being recorded and continuously transcribed by making use of a speech-to-text model like Whisper. The moment someone wants to verify a fact, you just press a button and trigger an automation. Participants, helped by facilitators, then formulate a question for the fact-checking, which is also being recorded and transcribed. Both of those are combined and together sent to a language model again. Can be OpenAI's language model or another one. We again provide the prompts, but all of this time is automated, no copy pasting, to identify the facts to be checked or the information to be provided based on the transcripts. And then a second prompt to instruct the large language model to make use of a tool for searching peer-reviewed academic databases, for example. And you may be familiar with Scholar AI, Semantic Scholar. You name them, they're available and they're accessible for automation chains. The research tool will then return a summary report. That summary report, again, with the help of one of our prompts, will be given to the large language model. The large language model then turns that into a precise answer to the original question for fact-checking and returns it to the discussion group. And all of that probably in seconds, if not minutes. At the third stage, and this is what I'm personally most excited about, we can think about, or in fact, we're planning to develop a deliberAIde co-pilot for democratic participation. You may have heard about the Microsoft co-pilots that are being released for their Office applications, for example. Here on the left side, you can see it integrated into Microsoft Word, into Excel, into PowerPoint. The co-pilot is the sidebar on the right side of each of these programs. And here in the right picture, you can see how that might look like and what tasks it can perform in the context of Microsoft Word. It can, for example, you can instruct the co-pilot to take the meeting notes from a meeting that took place the day before and then instruct it to make a proposal for, I don't know, a customer email, for example. And that can be very useful to get over writer's block. Now, these Microsoft co-pilots, they're not made for democratic participation either. They're made for collaboration and for use in Office contexts. So our idea is to design a deliberAIde co-pilot for democratic participation. And one of the functions that this could perform would be to help to link public input to citizen assemblies and also to get deeper analytical insights out of processes like citizen assemblies. And in order to do that, you could develop a deliberAIde co-pilot for what's called deliberative policy analysis, which in a nutshell is basically about, provides an analytical framework for aggregating contributions from discussions and analyzing what viewpoints, what positions people disagree on and agree on, and also for going deeper and looking at reasons why people may disagree on certain things based on what justifications they have given for their disagreements. This is how it could look like. The deliberAIde co-pilot is composed under the hood of a specially fine-tuned large language model trained on deliberative policy analysis. In the first step, you can imagine, say, hundreds or thousands of small mini publics taking place throughout the whole country. All of those are being recorded. All of those are being transcribed. The deliberAIde co-pilot helps to collect all of those submissions from distributed mini publics, stores them into a knowledge store that's also being part of our solution. The organizers are then the ones controlling the co-pilot, in order to make sense of all the submissions from distributed mini publics, for example, by extracting all the ideas and topics, by extracting all the viewpoints that were being voiced, by analyzing and categorizing into what people agree on, what people disagree on, and also collecting all the justifications, arguments, and stories that have been given. That could then, for example, serve to help set the agenda of a citizen assembly. And in the citizen assembly itself, again, all the discussions are being recorded and transcribed and stored in a knowledge store. The Copilot can help organizers, based on these transcriptions, to again keep track of what people disagree on in the discussions, what reasons may exist for these conflicts, what reasons there are for these conflicts to persist, what solutions may turn out to be compromise solutions, so to help resolve conflicts, and also to keep track of powerful narratives and stories like the one that I shared at the beginning of my presentation, that can transform conflicts and can transform people's perspectives. And all of that can help to compile a very insightful final report that is then being sent to the actual commissioners of the process, the people who have to take the actual policy decisions, and can also be shared with the general public. And supposedly that will help to align the decisions that are being taken more closely with the general public to more strongly support and understand the decisions that are being taken as a result of the citizen assembly process, and ultimately that will result in better decisions and more justice for society. So to sum up, like in the story that I shared at the beginning, we believe that democratic participation, especially deliberative democracy, has tremendous potential and capability for systemic change. And we believe that we can leverage the power of generative AI to multiply that potential. To do that, we are working on custom AI solutions to different actors in the democratic participation space. How do we do that? Through our consulting approach that we called Empower, combined with our AI operations for democratic participation expertise and toolbox. And going forward, we are going to do the following things. We are currently in the pre-incubation program of Oxford University Innovation, nearing the end. At the beginning of the year, we will know whether we become an official Oxford University Innovation startup. We have just been accepted into the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub, which comes with additional very valuable resources and support. We have started some pilot projects with selected clients, leading organizers in the field of democratic participation, pilot our approach and prototype some of the solutions. And very importantly, also, we're in the process of kicking off our incorporation as a steward-owned company. And once we've done that, we will start fundraising so that we can unlock our full potential. If you like this approach and this idea, please join us and support us on our journey. Share your ideas and feedback with us. Become a multiplier, spread the word about deliberAIde, share your idea with our idea with your networks so that we can reach those who might benefit from our solutions. If you're an organizer or decision maker yourself, let's collaborate. For example, pilot with us, be one of the first ones to integrate our custom AI solutions into your process. If you're an investor, philanthropist, or simply believe in our ideas and have a little bit too much money in the bank, support us by investing in us, our team, and our expertise to help us unlock its full potential. And please also use the QR code here to follow our company page on LinkedIn if you would like to stay updated. So don't hesitate also to get in touch with me personally or by connecting with me on LinkedIn. I thank you very much for your attention, and I very much look forward to your questions and the discussion.
Hey, thanks so much, Lucas. That is for your very thoughtful and thorough presentation. It's just amazing to see your journey personally, but also, yeah, for the company from And who knew that you could use ChatGPT to come up with a business idea in 7 hours? But yeah, thank you so much, and super exciting to see what's ahead. Yeah, feel free to keep the slide up so people can continue scanning that QR code to follow the company on LinkedIn. And I'm sure there'll be much more opportunity to get involved and participate as it grows, as deliberAIde grows and multiplies and scales. But yeah, super exciting, pivotal moment. So thank you so much, Lucas, for taking the time tonight to speak with us about it, about your journey. And everyone, yeah, thanks so much for your attention. There's a few minutes now left at the end for some questions or thoughts or reflections you may have on sort of where this is going, or maybe from your own experience, any pointers or comments. Please feel free to raise your hand and put it to the group. Liz, yes, thanks. Let me just unmute you.
Hi, unmute me, sorry. The QR code's not working. So you might want to put it back to the previous screen, because that gets me to something GIF half or something, which isn't what you wanted. So if we could try that again, that would be good.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, it seems...
Otherwise, just look for my name.
Yeah, it might be easier to do that. But anyway, what I was going to say is it all sounds absolutely fabulous. And can we all have it by tomorrow morning? But actually, with my specific questions are about piloting, because the scale of ambition is huge. And you've got vast amounts to offer people. It's a question of and maybe the process you're going through with the mentors will actually break it down into its component parts, so you can actually prove concept at the more pragmatic stages and then scale up. I think the way that you've put it together is really interesting, and actually I'd like to have a one-to-one conversation, because we've had a lot of parallel thoughts to you in terms of some of these processes. But I think the question with all of this is, we don't have a political environment that allows participation. And you're in a different space in Europe than we are in the UK, where we have the Neanderthals in. In fact, that's probably being rude to Neanderthals. But we have different political cultures, all have different innovation spaces, and some of our innovation spaces in the UK are around topics like biodiversity and areas that are not political, but actually feed into the political process. So just in terms of point of entry, it may be easier to do in non-contentious spaces like biodiversity or climate change, rather than going straight into the kind of political context where the degree of concern about the black box is even greater. So that's just some kind of feedback in terms of, how to grow the presence. In terms of conceptually, it's fab, but it's actually how do you go from concept to an established business. And if I can share with you my 26 years of being a managing director in an intellectual space, then proof of concept is the thing. So let's have a chat, but that was a general comment in terms of thinking about how you might want to phase it through.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very great comment. Very happy to have a one-on-one chat and exchange experiences, ideas, think about how we might collaborate together. On your comment of trying to reach proof of concept with uncontentious issues first, that's how I understood it. So 2 points.
Less contentious issues.
Yeah, less contentious issues. 2 points. One is so personally, I'm obviously political as well, and I would love to advocate for greater institutionalization of democratic participation and leverage the potential of participation, especially for the more contentious issues. But that's just me personally. And I think that I see that somehow separate for what we want to offer with deliberAIde, which I think is more of an agnostic stance. So instead of saying, okay, we decide on the issues where we want to use generative AI for, we leave it to the people organizing the actual processes and selecting the questions to discuss, whether that's a contentious issue or not. So if someone says,
sorry to interrupt, but
if
that's the
someone
difference
says they
between
want to
being a tool maker and a campaigner. It's up to the campaigners to make the case. The tool makers offer them the tools, and it's up to you to convince them that yours is the best.
Exactly.
Thanks so much. And yeah, thanks so much, Liz, for raising that point, because I noticed that too. And I was going to ask about, especially adoption in the UK or England, especially, which seems so far behind and pretty ancient compared to all the democratic innovations going on in Europe. But, Lucas, obviously, yes, you may be from Europe, but with the Oxford program, for example, I'm interested to hear whether, whilst everyone else is preparing their other questions or thoughts, but through the Oxford program, have any of the supporters and mentors there been specifically supportive in implementing this within England or the UK?
So this pre-incubation program is actually quite generic. So the support that we get is not very personalized to our specific business model. It consists of a series of workshops, basically. And those workshops revolve very much around identifying the right business model. So it's not yet about doing outreach and connecting to the marketplace that you want to start in. So far, we have not really gotten much support in terms of connecting to partners in the UK. Having said that, though, we are in touch with some partners in the UK, which we have contacted through other means and channels.
Right. Yeah. And obviously you're in the right place here, we know, with the Democracy Network and all the partner organizations there in the ecosystem. So I'm sure if you put deliberAIde, if you haven't already, in the monthly or weekly bulletin checkup, I'm sure you'll get a lot of interest and hopes to scale and implement the tool there. I'll just share because obviously, the Democracy Network and ANTIPARTY, UK founded, and really trying to improve the sort of democratic participation in this country, because we definitely do seem to be falling behind. But feel free to check that out as well, and let me know if you have any questions. But does anyone else have any thoughts or questions they'd like to raise to Lucas or the group? If anyone has maybe like first-hand experience designing or facilitating in-person deliberations, and have any sort of thoughts on how this is now moving online, aided and assisted by AI, any like concerns you might have perhaps?
Or experiences trying to use AI in those processes would also be very interesting to hear about.
Yeah. Or whether you might think it even will work from a user perspective, obviously, if you yourself want to get involved in these discussions, or with your local community, or in your country, and do you see this kind of participation as something that excites you, is more accessible, more easy, or is it do you think it'll be too complicated, etc.? But otherwise, and also feel free to share if people want to connect, share your LinkedIn profiles, so everyone can stay connected. There's the AI and Democracy WhatsApp group that's already been shared. And keep your eyes peeled for the next installment as well. There's going to be another webinar next Thursday, and we're going to be having another presenter from abroad, based in New York, speaking with us.